Now, the head of the World Trade Organization, Pascal Lamy, is due to step down in August of this year. The WTO's main goal is to facilitate and increase global trade, but it's faced delays of more than a decade of trying to make progress on its most recent round of Doha trade talks. They were aimed at opening up more markets to help poorer countries. There are 9 candidates in the running for that post. Herminio Blanco is one of those. He's a former Mexican trade minister, and he's here with us now. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Blanco, on France 24.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Tell me, is the WTO really still relevant? We've seen over the past 10 years more individual deals being done between 2 countries, most recently talks between the US and the EU. Does the WTO still have a part to play?
It is highly relevant. It regulates trade amongst 159 countries, many of them developing countries, some of them the least developed countries. So it's highly relevant. It has worked fairly well. It has established not only these rules, but it has established the way to solve disputes amongst the members. It is indeed the fact that more than a decade has been negotiating an agreement, the so-called Doha Agreement, that has been troubling the organization. That is one of the biggest challenge. This is an agreement that could deliver substantial benefits for least developed countries, and there is a need to solve that negotiation to move on, as you very well said. These agreements, the free trade agreements in the world, and very, very importantly, what was announced between the US and the EU, present a big challenge. Big challenge because those agreements have new rules that are more modern, more adapted to the way business is moving nowadays. In the last 12 years, the way of doing business has changed substantially, and the rules in WTO have not.
And are you worried about that there could be, these sort of deals being done between the EU and the US are going to exclude those poorer countries?
That's indeed the challenge. The challenge is that as countries move, as governments, and very especially the productive sector, the private sectors of these countries, move into other negotiations, the question is still the WTO will be relevant? I think especially the agreement between EU and the US is a challenge. But as any challenge, it has a risk and opportunities. The opportunity, the basic opportunity, is that I do believe that many countries in Geneva will sense the agreement, the announced negotiations between the EU and the US as a call for action. Hopefully, this will lead some countries to have more flexible positions, both on the side of the US, EU, but also on the side of the emerging economies.
And you're one of 9 candidates for the job, Mr. Blanco, and the current odds put to the Ghanaian candidate, Alan Kyerematen, in the lead. Do you think being Latin American is perhaps a disadvantage for you here?
I don't think so. I think this selection process should be on the qualities of each one of the candidates. And if I may speak just 3 things about myself. First, I'm from Mexico. Mexico is a country that has been very successful in using trade as a tool to promote prosperity. Mexico is exporting every day $1 billion. So it has this part that is very successful. We have parts of Mexico which are very similar to what is a developed country. We also have parts in Mexico which are still in poverty. So the mix of these 2 realities which I live, I think gives me a position where I can be a bridge between developed and developing countries.
Okay.
Number 2,
very briefly, I'm afraid, we're almost out of time.
I think I am the most experienced negotiator in the world, in the following sense. I was the chief negotiator of NAFTA. I was the minister head of the negotiations between Mexico and the EU. I've been, in the last 12 years, in the private sector, knowing a different vision of what it takes. So all of that, I think, will make me a very good candidate to lead the organization into these negotiations and to relevancy.
Okay, Herminio Blanco, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on France 24.
And
Stephen, thank you for that look at today's business news as well. The international weather's next, then Stuart Norval will have more headlines, so do stay tuned to France 24.